Hello, everybody. Kevin J. Johnston here, welcoming you back to another episode of The Real Estate Show. This is episode number 29, and we are just so happy to have all of you back joining us for tonight. We are going to be talking about taxes. Tonight's show is going to be all about taxes. There's just so many things that we all need to know that we don't know. Well, I know them, but I want to make sure you know them too. There's just so, what's the word there? There have been so many lies told by the Canada Revenue Agency and the government of Canada to the people of Canada that people really don't know who to believe or what to believe anymore. And that makes it it's going to make it very difficult for everybody. Canada, United States, England, Sweden, all these places were very high trust societies until the last 5-7 years. People are finally catching on to the fact that you should not be trusting anybody who works for government, especially not the CRA. So I know that in Australia, you're having very similar problems with the ATO, the Australian Tax Office. The IRS, well, they're insane. The American IRS is completely insane. And we are now in a position where our governments, especially in the Western world, are at war with we, the people, and we, the people, need to understand that we do have a great number of rights, and we need to exercise those rights. And that is the crux of tonight's episode. Again, episode 29 of the Real Estate and Money Show with Kevin J. Johnston. There'll be no guests tonight. Instead, I'm just going to read to you verbatim what the Canadian government has to say about the rights that you have in relation to taxes. So here we are. I'm going to start right now. This is coming right off of Canada.ca. And this is Canada.ca/EN/Canada, Revenue-Agency, blah, blah, blah. Okay, this long string. I'm going to read each right that you have. I'm going to make commentary on the rights that you have in Canada as a taxpayer and give examples of what each of these rights means. And if you do not believe me, you just go to Google or DuckDuckGo or Cool or U.com or Yandex.com or any of them and just type in Canadian Taxpayers Bill of Rights. It'll pop up. Number one, it'll pop right up, and you can read this directly from the Canadian government's website, which I will now do. All right. Your rights, starting off with clause number 1. You have the right to receive entitlements and to pay no more and no less than what is required by law. Subtext is, under this right, you can expect to receive the benefits, credits, and refunds to which you are entitled under the law. You can also expect to pay no more and no less than the correct amount required under the law. So let's talk about that for a second, shall we? That means that they want you to pay taxes, and they say that you only have to pay up to what the law dictates that you must pay. But here's the problem for the Canada Revenue Agency. There's actually no law in Canada that says a Canadian has to pay tax. I'm going to repeat that. There's not one single solitary law in any of the tax acts that we have in Canada that says you must pay. There's a law or a statute that says you shall, not must, but shall send in a tax return. Now, we've covered this before. Let's say you do want to send a tax return into the CRA, but you just don't feel like doing any work. That's fine. You don't work for the CRA. You're also not an indentured servant in Canada. So you simply take your name, write it at the top of the page. Don't do this electronically. Write your name, put your social insurance number, top right of the form. On the last page, sign it. No numbers, no zeros, no ones, nothing. Sign it, send it in. Congratulations. Your obligations to the government are now complete. Now, they will assess you. But we're going to go further down the list here, and we're going to talk about how to appeal any assessment. Every single time that the CRA assesses you or reassesses you, you appeal. Every single time. We're going to cover that. So Taxpayers Bill of Rights. Let's go back to this now. Number 2, You have the right to service in both official languages. Okay, Canada is a country that can't make its mind up. It's got two official languages, French and English. Personally speaking, I think it's Farsi and Arabic, but we still have the right in Canada, even if you don't understand French, you actually have the right to speak to somebody who speaks French. You have the right to be tried in a French-speaking court in Canada, even if you don't speak French. It's ridiculous, not going to help you, but you've got the right to do it. So it says here, the subtext is the Official Languages Act gives you the right to communicate with and receive services from the federal government in English or French. The CRA is committed to providing services in both official languages. They're not committed to it. They have to do it. All right, because the CRA is just a collection agency, which means they have to abide by French and English language laws. Wasaga Beach Girl is asking me if I am a lawyer. No, I am not a lawyer, but you are allowed to hire me as an agent to fight the CRA. And I'm going to cover that in this document that we are covering today. But Wasaga Beach Girl, let me sound a little bit cocky here. I know more than most lawyers. I can assure you I know more than almost every accountant you're ever going to work with in Canada about the CRA. I've had a personal vendetta against the CRA since I was 13 years of age. Earlier, actually, but a real one since I was 13. I've had a lot of time to read tax law and to get people their money back, just like TJ is suggesting there. Yes, it's possible to get all your money back, but you got to know the law and you got to know the policies and the procedures and you got to know the tricks. And I happen to know them. And that's why we're talking about taxes in tonight's show. Right number 3, you have the right to privacy and confidentiality. Under this right, you can expect us to protect and manage the confidentiality of your personal and financial information according to the laws we administer, such as the Income Tax Act, the Excise Tax Act, the Excise Act 2001, and the Privacy Act. We also take steps to protect your information and make sure it is kept confidential. Only employees who need your information to administer programs and legislation have access to your information. We know that to be a lie, by the way. We follow government-wide and internal policies on security of information and privacy. That is also a lie, by the way. The Canada Revenue Agency has and will continue to cooperate with the Chinese government. We regularly review our internal processes to make sure your information is safe. That is also a lie. The CRA is not mandated to protect your information. They're mandated to use your information to collect money from you any way they possibly can, which is why they now are pretending to be police officers when they phone you. That's what they do. So listen to what they say here, though. The information according to the laws we administer, not enforce. Words mean everything in law. If they said enforce, then it would mean that they are a police department. But because they administer it, they are an administrative corporation. That is why the CRA does not have any right to enter your grounds. If you tell them you can't come to my property, they can't come. If you tell them you can't talk to me ever, you talk to my lawyer or my agent, being me, they can never contact you again. They have to abide by the law. And I want to say congratulations. I'm not going to name him, but one of my clients who is a teenager just won a court case with my help against the CRA. Because the CRA sucks. They have no laws that actually protect them, but we have laws that protect us. Wasaga Beach Girl, if you are going to be selling property and you don't want to pay the capital gains tax, get a hold of me. I know exactly how to get rid of that tax legally. All right. Your right number 4. This is clause 4 in the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. You have the right to a formal review and subsequent appeal. Well, of course you do. They're not court. You can appeal anything. If, let's say, you're a hockey coach and you get suspended by a referee, you can appeal that to the league. And if they ignore you, appeal it to the courts. You can appeal anything in Canada, period. So the subtext is, this means that you are entitled to a formal review of your file if you believe you have not received your full entitlements under the law, or if you've not been able to reach an agreement with us on tax or penalty matter. So a formal review. Got to be careful with these. Who conducts the review? Well, they want you to believe that it's only them. You have the right to hire a third-party arbitrator. I'm going to cover that more towards the end of the show. But you can have a third-party arbitrator take over the position of running this review, if you will, this appeal. That, like, okay, with the CRA, they're always going to tell you that you got to pay tax. They always say this. They're liars. Even if you did like $1.9 million in sales and your taxes were like, what, 400 grand, and you paid every little bit of that 400 grand right to the penny, you know what they're going to say? Oh, we're sending you a tax bill for $2,150, because they know about 1 million corporations are just going to pay that small amount. So they've just made, like 20, 200, whatever million. That's how they do things. They're just always saying you owe us money. Always. You have the right to a review and subsequent appeal, which is why with the Canada Revenue Agency, it's probably the same with the Australian Tax Office, and it's definitely the same with the IRS. You can appeal. You can also just go ahead and sue them. And the CRA, the Canada Revenue Agency, they lose in court about 97% of the time. So sue them. Take them to court. They don't even defend lawsuits anymore. They don't have the manpower. They hired a whole bunch of non-English speaking foreigners who are stupid, like really low intelligence quotients, to take over the job of harassing good, kind, loving Canadians who actually pay their taxes to give to people that don't pay taxes. So why cooperate with them? All we're going to do is make sure that we write the appropriate legalese, and in writing the appropriate legal letters to them, we will then have them in the position where they are squirming. You always want to be on the attack with the CRA, which means that because you've got that right to file an appeal, you guys got to stop phoning the CRA. Yeah, there's a serious problem with Canadians. I'm going to tell you this right now, and this bothers me about Canadians. You all think that because you are a moral person, that you're going to be able to just tell the truth to the CRA, and they're going to say, oh, okay, right, okay, you didn't get our tax paperwork, and oh, your mother has cancer, and your father just died 3 days ago, and your wife just miscarried. Oh, okay, well, we're going to give you a couple of weeks. No, they don't care. These are not human beings that work for the CRA. These are pigs that work for the CRA. You all need to change your mindsets, everyone. The Canada Revenue Agency does not employ human beings. It employs monsters. But it employs monsters with no teeth and no claws and no brains and no backing. All the CRA does is they issue threats. And because most of your employers out there are cowards, they say, oh, the CRA sent a letter. I better do what I'm told. Instead of sending off a letter saying, hi, CRA, don't ever communicate with me again, or I will charge you criminally. Your boss could say that. Your employer could have some balls and say that. But you know what? It's just, I don't want the hassle. I don't want the headache. And CRA, they send me a letter, and if I don't do it, they're going to audit me. Yeah, that's how you all think. And then you think you can get on the phone and say, I don't want an audit. We're not doing very well. You honestly think that they care. Do not call the Canada Revenue Agency. As I told you, you're speaking to morons. They are morons. They are immoral, completely immoral, self-centered morons who like the idea that you're begging them, that they've got some power over you. They love it. They get off on it. Anybody who gets off on power like that, honestly speaking, is not a human being. So if you are from the CRA, and you probably are watching, because I know that you guys are not a fan of me, understand this. I view you as my playthings. You are not human beings. None of you are. It's only a matter of time before the Canadian audience out there watches enough of the information that I'm giving to them to bring forward the revenue that I'm going to require to find out every single thing about every single one of you. And do you think for a second that I'm not going to publish that list? Your names, your home addresses, your phone numbers, your bank account balances. Like, I will eventually get all that information. It's only a matter of time. You can't hold me back because I'm determined and I hate you. And hatred is an incredibly powerful motivator. It is actually the most powerful motivator that human beings have. It's almost more so than love is. And because I hate the CRA, because I hate what they do to human beings, I hate the fact that they have destroyed lives and they drive people to suicide. Honestly speaking, if I was ever in this, if I was ever in this lifetime to be in a position of power, and mark my words on this, you can take this to the bank. If I was ever in a position of power inside the Canadian government, I would immediately write an emergency law stating that all of you needed to be rounded up. And I'd put you, about 75 of you, in one jail cell, just cram you in so you have to share the same toilet and whatnot, because I despise you that much. You don't need to treat you don't need to treat animals with dignity. You just don't. CRA or animals. So I want to just cover the fact, everybody, you don't phone the Canada Revenue Agency. You're not going to talk them out of anything. You contact me and you can hire me as your agent. And I'm going to cover that a little bit later on. And we're going to send off all the appropriate letters that we need to send off to the Canada Revenue Agency to inform them of what laws they're breaking and what rights we are invoking. So let's go back to this. I'll just share my screen again. And here we go. So for everybody who's watching on Rumble, you can actually read along with me. We're going to go now to right number 5. This is clause 5, everybody, of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. You have, check this one out. You're going to love this. You have the right to be treated professionally, courteously, and fairly, which they don't do. They shout, they scream, they threaten, they lie, they do all the above. So if you've got that right, that means the second that you feel like you're being sworn at, yelled at, intimidated, lied to, so on, call the police. Call the police. Every single human being in Canada who is being phoned or harassed by the Canada Revenue Agency, call the police. You pay taxes for a reason. The cops may or may not take a note down, but let's just say 20% of cops actually either file a charge or they issue a report number to you. The report number is going to be enough for you to go to the courthouse and file criminal charges against them. It's called laying a private information. Okay? A private information means you go to a Canadian courthouse, any courthouse in Canada, and say that you'd like to file a private information, which are criminal charges, against an individual. And let's just say 1 million Canadians all went to the courthouses and started charging all of these CRA people with intimidation. That's 5 years in jail, section 423. Extortion, fraud over 5,000, theft over 5,000, conspiracy to commit fraud, conspiracy to steal, or conspiracy to commit larceny. Like, these are all kinds of charges. We just pile on these people. Pile on. Because you know what will happen when these losers get charged? They start to cry and they quit their jobs, and the CRA is going to start changing their policies and say, oh, if you get charged, you don't contact us and we'll help you. Oh, they won't. Because I'll tell you this, if the crown, we know Daystar, the Crown, is probably going to stay the charges. We know that. Doesn't change the fact that one might get through. So 1 million people file charges, one. It just takes one to go through. And the precedent is set. And when one is done, you get case law, which would be Smith versus CRA, or Smith versus whatever working for the CRA. One gets through, precedent gets set, and we're good to go. There's still a couple of conservative judges left in the country who know the CRA are liars and thieves and criminals, and they can't hide behind their benches forever. At some point, something has to break. But we have to collectively, as people, as a country, do it together. All of us do. Fill the courthouses with this stuff. Just waste as much time as you can of the courts and make sure the courts are not there prosecuting people except the CRA. And when you find out, when the person gets charged, then we find out that CRA's home address and whatnot, and we start to file lawsuits against them. If we find out, look, if anybody knows where CRA staff members live, let me know, because I'm going to help people file lawsuits against them and put liens on their properties. This is what we need to do, everybody. The Canada Revenue Agency staff need to be punished. Let's take their stuff away. We can do this, you know. We can do this. If they're going to break the law, we charge them. As soon as we find out where we live, we use the law to take away their stuff. We can win this. But you all got to do it. You got to stop being afraid of these people. They are not a police force at all. And they tell lies like this, where you have the right to be treated professionally, courteously, and fairly. Let me just read the subtext on this one. You can expect us to treat you courteously and with consideration at all times. If that was the case, they wouldn't phone you in the first place, including when we ask for information or arrange interviews and audits. You do not ever cooperate with an interview or an audit. You have the right to say, no, thank you. Oh, by the way, you are officially banned. We send trespass notices in, and they work, because if you tell them you've been trespassed and they show up, you can call the police. And if you feel threatened, you're allowed to defend yourself. You can't shoot them or kill them. But, if they start getting really aggressive and put their face in your face, defend yourself, or throw yourself on the ground and just pretend you're passed out and say they hit you. I don't normally go with tactics like that, but because we're dealing with the Canada Revenue Agency, I'm fine with that. You have no idea how fun I am lying about the fact that they've done something illegal. Who gives a crap? That's all the CRA does. We have to fight them their way. Everyone says, well, why don't we walk the high road? Because it doesn't work. That's why. So you can be as polite and whatnot as you want, but it's not going to work. When you're dealing with evil, you have to become evil incarnate, but you must control your chaos, right? So you need to fight them dirtier than they fight you. That's a fact. Anybody who wants to get a hold of me, my website address is right up here in the bio. It's my name, kevinjjohnston.me. That's kevinjjohnston.me. If you're watching on Rumble, Facebook, DLive, Twitch, Twitter, where else are we? Restream, I don't know, Kick. If you're on any of those, in the bottom right corner, you will see, on there we go, right here, kevinjjohnston.com. It'll take you directly to my site where you can grab yourself a 1-hour consultation. Let's go back to your taxpayer's bill of rights. So number 5, we know it's a joke. They're not going to be courteous with you at all. They are a bunch of liars. And senior citizens, you are correct. The guy from TikTok, seniors should not be paying taxes. But the Canada Revenue Agency doesn't care, because seniors are an easy target. Although I will say this to senior citizens out there, I don't understand how it is that you can go through your teen years and your young adult years, your 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on, and you get dumber with age. You become more afraid of things. I don't understand. I don't get it. So this is something that senior citizens out there need to do. You need to understand that you are afraid of everything because you've put ideas in your own head. My mother was a prime example of that. She always was crying, saying, CRA is going to put me in jail. And she would say this at random times, like random times. I'm really worried about the CRA, what they're going to do. They might put us in jail this year, Hey, I'm eating dinner and I'm dropping my fork. What are you talking about? Where do thoughts like this come from? But that's how senior citizens are. You got to stop. So contact me before you talk to them and say something stupid. You have the right to remain silent, everybody, which means shut up. Don't talk to the police. Don't talk to judges. Don't talk to crown attorneys. Don't talk to the CRA. Don't talk to bylaw officers. Don't talk to the CRA. Don't talk to the CRA. Do not talk to the CRA. You have the right to remain silent. You have the right to refuse an audit. You have the right to refuse all requests and demands that they make. And I got another thing I really want to say here. I will never name names when I give you examples, but I do want to say someone told me something frightening today, terrifying, that he had a member of his family who has a friend who's a bookkeeper, and the bookkeeper said, the CRA wants you to guarantee your corporate debt personally. I suggest you sign it and send it to them. My mind, wow. I was instantaneously livid. Let me tell you something about bookkeepers. They know nothing. They know nothing about accounting. They know nothing about tax law. They know nothing about the CRA, and they're not lawyers. And that individual actually gave my client legal advice. If you're not a lawyer, you can't give legal advice. I do not give legal advice. I'm not a lawyer. But I tell you what your rights are, and I tell you what the strategy is that I'm recommending, and then you tell me what you want to do, and that's how it works. So imagine you're going to your bookkeeper saying, hey, I don't understand tax law. And your bookkeeper, who doesn't understand tax law, says, oh, just sign whatever they want and send it in. It's okay. You need to get slapped for that. All right. This is not supposed to be a politically charged show, but it's getting charged because when I hear these things, I feel bad for the person that's being told this. But now I'm coming across the fact that bookkeepers and accountants in Canada are completely useless people. They don't know anything. If you want to know tax law, go to a tax lawyer. But you better talk to one who's been in the game for 10, 15, 20 years. But I can almost guarantee you that I know more about Canadian tax law than lawyers do because I've been studying these people for 40 years. Personal vendettas are a wonderful thing, man. I have been committed to this because I hate the entire institution and I hate everybody who works for it. And I wish to see them all fall hard. That is what I do. And here's the other good part for everybody who wants to talk with me and hire me to represent them in tax law or tax problems or taxation restructuring or anything else. I'm not licensed by anybody anywhere in Canada. So I'm not a licensed accountant. I do all the accounting work for my clients and then I move it on to a CPA who then will sign off on everything. But I put all of the responsibility and the onus on me. That's what I do because I'm not licensed. I can't tell anybody I'm an accountant because I'm not. I proudly state I'm not an accountant. I actually know what I'm doing. I'm not licensed and I ergo have no license to lose. There's no disciplinary body that can discipline me for anything. The other thing I am not is a lawyer nor a paralegal. Why? I would never want to be a member of the Canadian court system. The court system in Canada is disgusting. It was actually going out of business a while ago. So between the years 2000 and about 2018, the Canadian courts were losing money and the judges were being laid off and cops were being laid off because Canadians were not committing enough crimes. So the courts in Canada issued a mandate to go and arrest people. They took away the power of discretion from police and said, if anyone does anything, just arrest them, put them in the system because we need our jobs. So what's happened here is Canadian prisons are now full of people who've done nothing wrong because cops have been told to arrest everybody for anything, no matter what. So that way the lawyers have work to do and the crown attorneys have work to do and the judges, they get to keep their jobs and the prison guards get to keep their jobs. Prison guards, check this out in Canada. Because you all know that the Canadian government got really upset with me when I cost Justin Trudeau $100 million, which I'm still very proud of today. Mwah, to there and to there. I am very, like the RCMP broke 3 of my ribs over that whole thing, but totally worth it, man. Totally worth it. So when they take me to Maplehurst Prison in the province of Ontario, Canada, the guard who's checking me in, he says to me, oh, where's the sheet of paper? Where's the paper? Oh, we may have to let this guy go. They couldn't find a piece of paper anywhere. And then he looks at me and puts this piece of paper down and says, okay, this piece of paper here says I can hold you here. I said, well, hold on. What? The piece of paper says you can hold me here, but not must hold me here. I need you to clarify that for me before I talk to you any further. Because I was content to sit in the lobby of the jail for the next month if I had to. I wasn't moving until I got clarification. So here's the way the Canadian jails work. The jails are either privately owned or they have private investors, and they all want to make money. How do they make money? They have to fill the jails. Why? Because the province pays the jails for every inmate they have. All right? So the jails need customers, which would not be anybody willingly going. In order for them to get customers, they got to count on the cops and the judges and the crowns to arrest and convict people, even wrongfully, mostly wrongfully, so that they get sent to the jail system where they get a piece of paper saying you can hold this person. I was honestly going to be released right there on the spot if they were unable to find that piece of paper from the judge. That's how it was going to work. And they actually had the discretion to let me go because they have a piece of paper that says they can hold me in jail, not they must. You want to know why people are leaving Canada en masse? It's because Canada is a very crooked, evil place. That's how the courts work. And now the Canada Revenue Agency is going out of its way to pretend to be these people, and they're not. And people are falling for it. And you all think you can talk your way out of things, man. Come on. These are evil, rotten to the core people who have no soul and don't care if you're dead or whatnot. So long as they get that little bit of cash out of you, they'll just move on to the next individual. Kimberlina, my website. Could people put my website address, please, in the chat? If you're on TikTok, just type in kevinjjohnston.me, kevinjjohnston.me, and my contact form is there, everyone. Please do get a hold of me there if you've got tax problems. I'm just going to check your questions here. Okay. Hi, Chris. Yeah, we're talking tomorrow morning. I'm looking forward to it myself. Stop saying literally. I'm not sure that I would hire someone that claims to be driven by vengeance. I would. Let's talk philosophically about that word for a second. Revenge is a human right as far as I am concerned. The books have to be balanced. Every man has the right to balance his own accounts. They really do. When the CRA, or at the time they were called Revenue Canada, when they took away 1/3 of my parents' wealth, it screwed our family up for 5 years. It took 5 years to recover from that. My brother and I had to go to work at age 11 and age 13, at the same time there to help balance it all out. Not that working was bad for me. It actually taught me a lot, but that's what the CRA did. Vengeance will be mine. I'm driven. So if any of you out there want my hate and my fueled rage about these people to work for you, let me know, because I enjoy hurting them. Whereas the average accountant is terrified of them. They're terrified of me. There is a huge difference. All right. Check a few more things here. I'm just checking questions as we're going through. That's right. The guy from TikTok, they do care if you're dead so they can tax your estate. And if anybody out there has a family member who's dead or dying, the CRA, you never contact them until 2 years after you've closed everything up. Then you do your dead relatives or loved ones taxes at that point. If you have someone passing away or has passed away, get a hold of me first, because you're going to make mistakes. Not that you're bad people, but because the CRA knows the rules and you don't. But I know them too. So we certainly can attack them there. Let's go back to the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, and we're going to go to clause number 6. You have the right to complete, accurate, clear, and timely information. You can expect us to provide you with complete, accurate, and timely information in plain language, explain the laws and policies that apply to your situation. They don't explain them. That's a lie. What they'll do in a letter is they'll tell you, we're taking money due to Excise Tax Act, Clause 19, blah, blah. That's all they'll do. They explain nothing. They're frigging liars. That whole clause right there is a lie. And let me back it up with more evidence here. Since January of this year, today, I wrote my 500th letter to the CRA on behalf of clients. 500 letters. The CRA has replied to one of those letters, just one. So they don't do anything timely. And even though you've got the right to timely information, they don't do it. They don't care. They don't have to. They get to keep their jobs no matter how poorly they do them or how poorly they treat us. So there we go. Rhonda Parsons says, my uncle passed away and the lawyer cashed all his stock in except for 2, which was about $1 million. You have to charge that lawyer criminally and sue him and the firm. Also, you have to find out what his insurance bond number is and sue the insurance company on top of that. Hit him hard. Hit him hard. All right, let's go back to the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights for Canadians. Clause number 7. Now, this one here, I have invoked this one for a couple of clients, and it has worked in a couple of different capacities. Let's cover this. Your right number 7 states that unless otherwise provided by law, you have the right to not pay income tax amounts in dispute before you've had an impartial review. Okay. They say you owe us taxes. And I say, no, I don't. Go straight to hell. And they say, well, yes, you do. And I say, you know what? I'm calling the AIN, or I'm going to call some private company, private arbitration company, or I might just go to the courts and I'm going to ask for a third party intervention here. It's called a review, third party impartial review. Once you've initiated that with the CRA, they are no longer allowed to penalize you. They can't keep harassing you because the hearing date must come up at a future time, and that puts everything on hold until that hearing is reviewed and you lose. But if you win, then you win. If you lose, then they start putting all the fees back on top of everything. Doesn't change the fact that in that time, we can still figure out who the individual CRA officer is, do our very best to get a private investigator hired, find them, sue them, put liens on their property, and publish all their private information. But don't do it, okay? If you're going to publish the private information of any government employee, you must do it legally. And here's how you do it legally. File a lawsuit with their information on it. And once that thing's been filed and stamped by the court, it's a public document. Then you're free to pass it around to the whole wide world. All right. There was a couple of bad politicians that people wanted to track down. I tracked them down. I legally sued them for $1. I sued them for $1. All right. And because I filed the $1 lawsuit, I was able, with that $1 lawsuit, to publish it. Home address, everything's on it. And they got sued by other people because my good efforts were then spotted by the outside world. And they said, oh, yeah, I got to sue that guy too. So there we go. And we have the right to do these things. Laura Lee Campbell, this is a part and parcel to what I said earlier in the show. If you have a son or a daughter or a family member in a psychiatric ward and you're taking care of them, CRA doesn't care. Don't tell them sob stories. Go on the attack with lawsuits. Go on the attack with the appropriate legal letters and legal documents. Attack, attack, attack. No mercy for CRA staff. Remember, I've told you, they are not human beings. They are toys for us to enjoy playing with. And we all need to adopt that thought process. Also, let's just say, and I'm not encouraging anyone to commit acts of violence, but let me tell you what's going to happen. Because the government's become so militant in Canada, and because the Canada Revenue Agency has also become so militant in Canada, people are going to start shooting. That's just how it is. Even the Royal Canadian Mounted Police are concerned. They wrote a report saying that when Canadians finally figure out how broke they are, they're going to turn to violence. Every civilization that was overtaxed always went to violence. And when the CRA staff members start getting attacked, and there's going to be a jury trial for the person who attacked them, we collectively as people must say, no, not guilty. Why? Because the law only pertains to human beings, right? Persons, as they call them. And if we go into these courtrooms as a unified jury saying, if they work for the CRA, they are not human beings, let's just, whatever is brought up, even if the guy's guilty as sin who shot the CRA guy in the face, let's just say not guilty. That sends a message to all the CRA staff. Yeah. And to the government in general, that we, the people, are done. We're not putting up with this stuff anymore. So we all need to change how we think about the Canada Revenue Agency. You need to hate them as much as I do, and then go on the attack. Right? And when I say attack, I don't mean turn to violence. I mean, we find out who they are, where they live. We start taking away their houses with lawsuits and with third-party arbitration. We start putting liens on their properties. We start publishing all their personal information. We let the whole world know who they are, what they look like, where they live, everything. This is what we do to defeat the CRA. Let's continue on. I just want to cover clause number 7 is the most powerful clause in the Taxpayers Bill of Rights in Canada. This is the one that you're going to use. You are constantly going to go out of your way, everybody, to ensure that you invoke right number 7. I want an impartial review. I am invoking this. And you can, there is a third-party arbitrator that we know of who are completely impartial. If you wanted to, you can take your case to them and they will hear the case. And if the CRA chooses not to show up and defend, you're going to win by default. And then you take that victory from the tribunal against the Canada Revenue Agency and you sue them in court, you're going to win there too. If an 18-year-old kid, client of mine, can beat the CRA in court, which happened this past Wednesday, then any of you could do the same thing. And I salute this kid. Brave kid comes to me saying he wants vengeance. I said, so do I. Let's do it. We can win this, everybody. But we got to become a unified force against the CRA because they're taking everything from us. Let's move on to Taxpayers' Bill of Right number 8. You have the right to have the law applied consistently. Well, we know this one's also untrue, but you can still quote this when you're dealing with the CRA. It is your right to have us apply the law consistently so everyone gets their entitlements and pays the right amount. But there is no law that says you have to pay income tax. So they've already shot themselves in the foot with Clause 1 and with Clause 8. We will take your particular circumstances into account as allowed by law. This is where some of you might think that pleading poverty is going to help. You can plead poverty, but you got to do it through a guy like myself with the appropriate legalese, the appropriate legal documents. We want to get this all done. Damon, he was awarded $10,000 in the lawsuit that happened on Wednesday. And also the judge wrote down that his CRA debt is now gone because the CRA was unwilling to prove that there was a debt. All right. Can you help with CEWS and what people are dealing with? K-Card, that's a possibility. Get a hold of me on my website and we can certainly talk about that. All right. And how do you not pay income tax? Mohammed, I'm going to cover that one on next week's show. Tonight, we're covering what your rights are to do with taxes. So they say that in right number 8, accuracy and consistency are essential in the administration of tax legislation. We take a number of measures to make sure that we administer legislation in a consistent manner across the country. These measures include systematically analyzing the most common errors made by taxpayers and steps to prevent them, right? Okay, which means we're going to try to screw you even though Clause 8 says we can't. Training our employees, training them to steal from you and how to lie to you and threaten you. They do that. Issuing technical directives, which right now is using artificial intelligence to write lies to the people. That's what they're doing. AI is writing lies to people. Then reviewing our technical publications for accuracy. They're not accurate to you, the people. They're accurate to themselves. There you go. All right. So moving on, not moving on yet. Sorry. I just want to cover here that they say accuracy and consistency are essential in the administration of tax legislation, not the enforcement. They are not a police department. The Canada Revenue Agency has zero rights to harass you, needle you, step foot on your property, or even to audit you. They don't have the right to do it. They say they do, but you contact me and we get rid of the audit. I've done that for over 4 dozen people this year alone. The audit's not happening. And on top of that, we also issue trespass notices to the CRA employee. They call themselves officers, losers, the CRA criminal. We just send out trespass notices to those individuals by fax, and they have to abide by them. And then we take that same trespass notice and we put it on the front door, the side door, the windows, and the end of the driveway of whatever property they said that they were going to come to. If you cooperate with an audit, they will screw you. They'll just write things down. But if you don't cooperate with an audit, then the best they can do is an assessment. But because they can't prove anything, you utilize Clause 7 and Clause 4 of your rights to have an appeal done with a hearing, and that's it. You're just never going to get taxed if you keep being aggressive with this criminal enterprise. Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, Clause 9. You have the right to lodge a service complaint and be provided with an explanation in our findings. You can expect that if you make a service-related complaint, you'll be listened to. That's a lie. And given the opportunity to explain your situation. That's okay. You can explain it, but they're going to ignore you. We will deal with your complaint promptly and in confidence, and will explain our findings. I've seen some of these letters where they explain their findings, and they usually just say that we disagree with you and we're going to assess you anyway. That's all they do. Generally, service refers to the quality and timeliness, of the work we perform. They don't work, they just lie. A service complaint could involve having received unclear or misleading information, staff behavior matters, mistakes, or undue delays. So under clause 9, as soon as a CRA representative contacts you, file a complaint. Even if they were polite, file a complaint. The hell with them. Who cares if they lose their job? They're trying to steal your house. Who cares? File a complaint no matter what. Clause 10. You have the right to have the cost of compliance taken into account when administering tax legislation. Wait till you hear this crock of crap, because this has never happened. We recognize the need to minimize the time, effort, and costs you have to incur to comply with the tax and benefit legislation we administer. At the same time, we have a duty to protect Canada's tax base by ensuring the highest possible level of tax compliance. Right? You heard that? So you have the right to not pay tax, but they say that they're going to try to get you to pay tax. That's exactly what they just said here. We believe that most individuals and businesses, given the opportunity, information, and tools, will voluntarily comply with the law. But there is no law. There's no law that says you have to pay. That's it. There's procedures, but there's no law that says give them money. To promote this type of voluntary compliance, listen to this. To promote this type of voluntary compliance, we try to make your dealings with us as straightforward and convenient as possible by offering services through multiple channels, including the internet, telephone, and mail. But you're not allowed to email them anything. So that's a lie. Being practical in our interactions with you by reducing and simplifying whenever possible and appropriate the work, time, and effort for you to devote in preparing your taxes. But again, I've covered this with you. You don't have to prepare taxes for them. You just take a tax return in Canada, name, social insurance number, signature, put nothing else on it, no numbers, nothing else, mail it in, done. They'll assess you, you appeal. There we go. So Chucky Money, where do you make a complaint with the CRA? Head office is in Sudbury, Ontario, Canada. You can fax in your complaint or you can send it in by registered mail. If you just type in all Canada Revenue Agency mailing addresses, there's a full list that comes up of every single one of them, including phone numbers and fax numbers. And all of you, if you get a single letter from the Canada Revenue Agency, file a complaint. You're terrified. You're afraid. You feel like you're being threatened. You don't sleep at night. You think the CRA is looking in your windows. You can say all this stuff. It doesn't matter what you say you believe. They can't prove it. Right? There you go. There you go. Let's talk about Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, Clause 11. You have the right to expect us to be accountable. Yeah, okay, good luck on this one. But you can make them accountable by taking them into the courts. Drag them into the courts. File a complaint. You file your complaint, everybody, to Bob Hamilton, who's the commissioner of the Canada Revenue Agency. He's a loser, tall, skinny, lanky guy. He's really just a talking head. He talks on CPAC and other places like that. But he does exist. That we know. And if you send the complaint to him, and your letter, you demand a response within 15 days, or you will litigate and then litigate. Because I promise you, they're not going to get back to you. They don't get back to people at all. All right. Damon, if a relative of yours needs an MRI, yeah, we get them done for people here in Panama. That's what I do. I've got my new health business getting MRIs and CT scans opening up in 2 weeks here in Panama. So get a hold of me. All right. So when they say expect us to be accountable, here's what their subtext. You have the right to expect us to be accountable for what we do. Okay, good. Then sue them. Just file suits. Hold them to account. When we make a decision about your tax or benefit affairs, we will explain that decision. No, they don't. And tell you about your rights and obligations. They tell you about your obligations. They give you about 500 ways to pay them, but they don't tell you about your rights. Never. They just don't. In fact, they told one of my clients he was not allowed to have a lawyer for an audit. That's illegal. That's legal advice. They actually gave him legal advice to not get legal advice. Holy crap. What a bunch of criminals. So we are accountable through Parliament to all Canadians. We report to Parliament on our performance and the results we achieve against our service standards. No, they report to Justin Trudeau's party right now how much money they've made. That's all they do, which is why you always have to invoke Clause 4, Clause 7. Invoke it and also file complaints. We have to fill their fax machines up with complaints. We have to make it impossible for them to deal with any of us. Now, Samantha, I see you. You're not being blocked. I can see you. Right number 12. You have the right to relief from penalties and interest under tax legislation because of extraordinary circumstances. Subtext. This means that we will consider your request to waive or cancel all or part of any penalty and interest charges if you are prevented from complying with your tax obligations. You don't have tax obligations because of circumstances beyond your control. So this is where all of you make statements. You tell them, sorry, I was diagnosed with brain cancer and I was unable to focus for 3 years. You can write that letter. Now, who diagnosed you? I don't know. Pick a deity. You know, there's 150,000 deities out there. Pick one. Baal, Shiva. Yeah, I don't care. Who cares? Pick one. Lie. These people lie. Lie to them. Extraordinary circumstances. I couldn't think because I had brain cancer. I'm all better now. I'd like to solve my problem. But better yet, you have me write those letters for you, so you're not even accountable for what you say. All right? That's what you need to do. Is if you do decide to go the route of pleading poverty or pleading medical, you got to do it in writing. Don't phone them. These people are crooks. They don't care. They laugh at you on the phone. You know that, right? You know, at the CRA, they got these big call centers and they've got the phones like this and they're going like, this idiot's got cancer. He thinks we're crazy. And they'll start laughing at you. That's what the CRA does. They're worse than cops ever were. So think about that, everyone. You are a joke to people if you make phone calls. Do everything in writing. There you go. And Turbo, I'm sorry you got yourself a brain tumor there. That's horrible. And that would be an extenuating circumstance that you would actually be able to get your fees and penalties removed. But the problem with them is that they're going to state that they want evidence. We want your medical records. We want your x-rays. This is stuff they have no right to, by the way. And what they're trying to tell you, the CRA tries to tell you that you're guilty until proven innocent. That's not how it works. No. Hold on a second, CRA. You're accusing us of owing you taxes. Prove it. Prove it. You're assessing us, which means you're lying. That's all that it means. We're guessing. We're lying. We want money, so we're lying to you. That's what an assessment is. So we say, okay, we're appealing your assessment, and you can prove to the judge that we owe money. Good luck. Because if you take my advice, everyone, which is not legal advice, it's just life advice, if you never talk to the CRA, they will never have evidence against you. Period. Now, don't threaten them on the phone. Every single member of the CRA honestly deserves a bullet and a knife and a bludgeon to the skull. They deserve it, but it's illegal to do it. It's also illegal to tell them that you're going to do it. It's uttering threats, and they might even charge you with assault. Do you know that? In Canada, if you tell someone that you're going to kick their ass, they can charge you with assault. The country's become soft and very sick. So don't threaten them on the phone. Contact me. We'll send out the appropriate legal litigation threat. We're allowed to threaten them for litigation. And then if you really, look, if you got, let's say you're a corporation, you got a spare $5 million sitting around and they're going to try to tax you for half of that, right? Contact me. Let's take some of your lovely money. We'll hire a private eye. We're going to find out where this guy lives and we'll make an example of him because you'll have the money to fight him in the court and put liens on his property. And I can't wait to help you do that because I know how to do that, which is a wonderful thing. So, Taxpayers Bill of Right number 13, you have the right to expect us to publish our service standards and report annually. All right, so they put that on their own website. Right? This is a stupid right because they are a corporation contracted by the federal government to steal money from people. So they kind of have to do this, but it doesn't matter that they have to do this. They don't put all their accurate records out for everyone. That's one of the biggest problems. Hold on a second here. Change the World said, it's not their fault. It's who's behind them putting the idea in their head that you owe them money. If I tell you, Change the World, to stomp on someone's child and you do it, you're worse than I am. Don't ever think that the one giving out the orders is the only one who's guilty. The ones who carry out the orders are worse than the one who issued the order, because the one who issued the order wasn't brave enough to conduct that particular egregious service, we'll call it, on their own. So think through what you're saying there. If a collection agent who works for the Canada Revenue Agency makes the phone call and threatens you, and they're doing it because they're following orders, remember, that defense didn't work for the Nazis either at Nuremberg. They still all hanged. Don't think I have any sympathy for any of them. They're all criminals. They're all dirt, and they deserve to be behind bars for what they're doing. Yes, we all have a choice. That is correct. Canada Crafter B. Hickey, we all have a choice. And if someone issues a command to me to hurt someone, the answer is no. And if I was to watch you try to hurt an innocent party, I'd stop you. So there we go. It sucks that there's very few moral people left anymore. Do not expect morality from the CRA. You're not going to get it. Right number 14, you have the right to expect us to warn you about questionable tax schemes in a timely manner. All right, so what happens here from time to time, a good tax shelter comes up and the CRA catches on to it. And about 5 or 6 years later, a law gets written to close that loophole up. What they'll do is they'll lie to you before the legislation gets changed. The CRA will lie to you and say that, oh, this is a questionable tax scheme. Don't do it. Don't save money on taxes because, we say so. That's all that means. So clause number 14 of your rights is just them trying to keep you from knowing what even more of your rights are. Okay, 1 second there. Change the World says, yes, they're working for a company and getting paid. The question is, do they know what they are doing? If you pick up the telephone and threaten somebody, you know what you're doing. That's it. You've now uttered threats. If you tell someone, you do what I say or else I will hurt you, that's intimidation. That's section 423 of the Criminal Code, 5 years in prison. So change the world. What are you doing? Defending the CRA? As far as I'm concerned, when they're taking your money from you, they are killing your children. They're murderers. That's how I see it. So they're the ones doing the killing from the phone. Now, they get no mercy from me at all. Okay. Clause number 15. You're going to love this one. I am not a lawyer. However, I am the most knowledgeable guy right now on TikTok in Canada to do with taxes in Canada. Ready? You have the right to be represented by a person of your choice. You can choose a person to represent you and get advice about your tax benefits and affairs. Once you authorize us to deal with this person, we can discuss your situation with your representative. However, you are still legally responsible for your tax and benefit affairs. Yeah, well, we'll work on that. Even if you choose to have someone act for you. So I had a client where the judge knows who I am. All the judges in Canada know who I am. They don't like me because I teach people how to fight them. Well, this judge says, you can't have Kevin J. Johnston represent you because he's not a lawyer. Well, there it is right there. It's right there. Clause 15. I'm going to read it verbatim. Clause 15 of the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights, directly from Canada.ca, the official website of the Government of Canada. Clause 15, you have the right to be represented by a person of your choice. Ta-da! So we appealed that decision from the judge, and my client's going to get off scot-free because that judge was a retard, loser, and dick. I don't like Kevin J. Johnston because he's a loudmouth podcaster. So I'm not going to let you win this case. That's what he wrote or typed on his little book. Which is why I'm telling all of you out there, if you feel like you want to deal with your tax problems, I'm allowed to represent you against the CRA. And I happen to have a very good team behind me. Very, very good team. And thank you for Polo Canuck saying, I would nominate you to be a federal judge. Why do we put up with liberal shills? Because conservative people had an opportunity to fight back when all this garbage started happening and nobody did. All right. Like the second that you see your country's beginning to crash, you got to do something about it. All right. Everybody. Remember Justin Trudeau. What's the first thing Trudeau did in office? As soon as he got in, what's the first law he passed? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. He legalized bestiality. That's the first thing he did. And Canadians went, oh, he's so cute. He's got nice hair. I'm so happy that we have Trudeau. Yeah. I blame Canadians for that. Then he went out and he said that Canada was going to become the world's first post-national state. The new prime minister went on Fox News and said that he was going to destroy Canada. Look what he's done. 8 years. 8 years. He's 9 now. He's been doing his best to destroy the country. And I'm a prophet? No, it's not happening everywhere. I live in Panama. I moved to Panama. None of that crap is happening here at all. The Panamanian government right now is building a new highway to go from Panama City to the Costa Rican border. They're putting a 44-kilometer elevated train up. There are 3 subway lines in Panama City that are cleaner, faster, and better than Toronto and Montreal. Excuse me. The airport is top notch. It's better than Pearson International Airport in Toronto. It's better than Vancouver's airport. It's better than all the airports in Canada that I've been to here in Panama. No, Canada's crap is not happening here. I'm going to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, everybody. Today, I had a plate, 14-inch plate with a little bit of rice, lots of lentils, lots of beef, lots of chicken, right? And a little bit of spice on it. And it cost me $2. Cost me $2 in a restaurant, prepared for me. And the guy gave me a glass of water for free. And he's like, smiles like, oh, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I gave him a $1 tip. So $3 for amazing lunch. I'm still full right now. That's Panama. It's not happening everywhere. There's a lot of countries around the world, everyone, who are doing quite well. And Panama is doing incredibly well. You want to make money? Come to Panama. There's money on every street corner in this country, everywhere. So that's clause 15. And the final clause of your taxpayers' Bill of Rights, everyone, you have the right to lodge a service complaint and request a formal review without fear of reprisal. So twice now, they've said that you can review and appeal. Plus you can complain, which means we, the people of Canada, must file complaints against every single CRA representative. As soon as they contact you, file a complaint. All right? You do it to the Sudbury office. You put Bob Hamilton's name on it, mail it in, fax it in, done. You want to send a fax for free? Because I know that nobody watching has a fax machine anymore. FAX, fax, ZERO, fax0.com. Free faxes. 3 pages you can send for free. Hold on. So Truth Matters. Why were you on the phone for 2.5 hours with the CRA? Why the friggin' hell are you don't phone them. They're on a fishing expedition. Get a hold of me. I'll put them at bay using all the appropriate legal letters. That is what we do. What does one say on the complaint? Tell the truth. You got a phone call from somebody completely unsolicited, and they intimidated me, and now I am fear-filled that the CRA is coming to my home to cause egregious harm to me and my family. Complain, complain, complain. Exactly. Last time here, it's a paper trail. Every single time you complain and they don't reply to your complaint, you're going to have a mountain of paperwork where they simply do not reply. When you finally sue the CRA, which I recommend that all of you do, you show the judge, look at all these letters I wrote. They have not replied to a single solitary one of them. They refuse to comply with the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights. They refuse to comply with the law. You know, I've been doing Freedom of Information Act forms for a lot of my clients. They get 30 days. 30 days to send you everything that you ask for. And I ask for a lot when we do these. One time, the CRA sent us back a letter to one of my clients. Only one of my clients got a letter back. And they said, we're sorry, we don't do that. Well, yeah, you do. They said that you have to use a select form and then pay a $5 fee. No, that's not how it works at all. You see, when the Canada Revenue Agency is telling people that you owe money and you say, I want to see my entire file, and they refuse to cooperate because you're abiding by the law. You're asking for freedom of information. I want to see everything. They don't have the right to say, oh, our policy says that you have to do it this way. The Freedom of Information Act form is very clear. Send it in, get your stuff. Here's an example. I did a Freedom of Information Act request. It was a letter on letterhead with my smiling face on the letterhead. I sent it off to Calgary Police, Edmonton Police, Peel Regional Police, Toronto Police, Ontario Provincial Police, Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and Vancouver Police. Just a letter by email. Every single police department has sent me my entire file. All of them did. And they did it in less than 60 days. The ones who did it in 30 days, good for them. Edmonton and Calgary did it in 30 days. Peel Regional Police said that they wouldn't be able, because they had a big file, they said, they wouldn't be able to do it in 30 days, but they did say that the law allows them to do it in 60. So I looked at the law and they were right, and they did it in 60. So if these criminal enterprise police departments are going to give me everything I asked for in 30 days, the CRA is also obligated to do the exact same thing, especially considering the fact that the Canada Revenue Agency is not a police force. They are a collection agency with criminals working for it. That's all that they are. So I want to ask kindly now to all of you out there to change the way you think. Do not make up laws in your own head. Don't sit there and say that, oh, you can't do that. That's illegal. How do you know? Most of you out there think that stuff is illegal that is not illegal. There's so many of you out there that are prepared to fight with family members saying that you can't do that. That's the law. Why fight with your family members? Before you shoot your mouth off and look like a fool and start an argument with a family member, read the law. If you honestly think that it's illegal, for example, to, let's say during a pandemic, if you think it's illegal to go to a park and do chin-ups on the monkey bars, if you honestly think that's illegal, before you shoot your mouth off and argue with your significant others, others, plural, read the law. I mean, I went through this with some of my family members. I took my kids to the park during you know what, and I said, yeah, we're going to climb. We're going to do our thing. And one time, a bylaw officer came by and said, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I do not wish to contract with you right now. You're irritating me. You are a bylaw officer with absolutely no authority over park grounds whatsoever. If you don't leave me and my children alone, I'm calling 911. And he shot his mouth off a bit longer. I said, fine, no problem. 911. Call. Hi, I've got somebody impersonating a police officer here, and they're threatening me. I need a police officer here immediately. You know, it took less than 3 minutes for the squad car to show up. I knew the law, and the cop told him, like, you can't bother people. He says, leave them alone. You got to do it. And the cops facilitated that properly. First time Peel Regional Police did anything right. So that's what I'm getting at, everyone. Don't put it in your head that things are illegal until you actually know the law. Don't fight with your family members because you're afraid. I'm going to tell you all this right now. Anybody who ever comes to me telling me that they won't do something because it's illegal, and I tell them, no, it's not, but they still insist that it is because of their own fear, that is someone that I have judged that I cannot trust. I will have no cowards by my side. I'm a big believer in that adage. If you're going to be afraid of everything, you cannot be in my personal life. You cannot be in my business life. You cannot even be in the same room with me. You got to go, because that makes you dangerous. People who are afraid of that many things before they've actually done the research are a danger to themselves, but worse, they're a danger to everybody around them because they are the ones that'll turn you in a heartbeat. Don't think for a second that if this was World War II, that people would not be turning each other in right now. Okay. Just you would. You can always identify those who will turn you in. The ones who are afraid of things like the CRA, the ones who tell you something's illegal before they've done any research. Sometimes people say, oh, well, that's illegal because they want to sound intelligent. There's nothing worse than someone that has no clue what they're talking about, or someone who's a complete idiot who says something that sounds intelligent so they can have their 15 minutes of fame. Everybody wants to sound important for some reason. I can't stand it. You know, if I don't have an opinion on something, I shut up. I don't talk. I don't want to talk about things that I have no knowledge of. I would rather listen. If I'm not a brain surgeon, but if a brain surgeon was talking about brain surgery at the table, I'm going to shut up and listen to him, which is kind of where I'm going with what I'm saying now, is if you know the law and the people in your family are afraid of something, make sure they shut up and educate them. And don't be afraid, people, to be educated. There is nothing better for you than learning something new. And there's nothing worse for you than fighting with your family on behalf of the government. The CRA is laughing at you. When people in households fight, and typically it is women that start these fights when it comes to taxes, because the letters that women get or families get are written by professional psychologists specifically to poison the mind and make fear-filled women. They target women because they know that a woman will argue with her man in a household and force him to pay just for some peace and quiet. Don't ever be that woman. If you're going to be afraid of something, leave the room. Excuse yourself from the entire situation and let whomever it is that knows what they're doing do the job for you. Never fight with your family because you're doing the CRA's work for them. And who's going to lose? You and your entire family, and they will have you to blame for it. I'm just asking you all, consider the fact that the CRA has no authority in Canada. Bylaw officers have no authority in Canada. Stay away from these people. Do not cooperate with them. In any particular way, do not cooperate. I'll leave you all with this. The people who work for the Canada Revenue Agency are cowards. They're cowards. I'm sure you all saw the video on my Rumble channel, which is just type in freedomreport.ca, where I phoned a woman named Diane Moore, M-O-A-R, who committed fraud and extortion and a few other things. She's been charged criminally now. I said to her, don't talk over me. I didn't threaten her. I asked her a question. Can I talk to your supervisor, or do we just go to the courthouse and charge you? And she kept reading the script off her screen. And then she started crying. And then her supervisor finally comes to the phone. So she says, I can't talk to her supervisor. But as soon as she's crying, the other supervisor, who's a woman, comes running over to the rescue. Oh my God, is a man yelling at you? Okay, that's what happened. So I got a chance to talk to the supervisor. And the supervisor tells me that she's going to remove Diane Moore from the case. Doesn't matter. We still charged her criminally. I don't care. Because they don't care. So understand that they're cowards. They'll fold up and they will turn on each other. If you're going to introduce what I'm proposing to all of you, and that's making the lives of individual CRA employees miserable, they will eat each other. So let's, all of us watching this show here, let's become a unified force against the Canada Revenue Agency, because the cowards who work for it will quit on their own when we put enough pressure on them. And as for tax shelters, Paulo, you don't need them when you do them the way that I do taxes. Completely legal, completely within the bounds of every law and the Excise Tax Act. I have a really good time when I'm doing these things. So if you're having any tax trouble of any kind, whether it's personal or corporate, please get a hold of me. And remember, yeah, legally, everyone, I do everything legally. I don't want warrants for my arrest all over the world. It's all legal, what I do. And I want to point out that you do not have to pay any taxes on your homes when you sell them or your properties. How would you all like to know how to not pay capital gains taxes on houses? How would you all like to know how to do that? And if any of you out there have sold a property under a corporation and you have a capital gains tax coming due, get a hold of me because I'm going to get rid of it. Ian Brown, excellent question. Property tax is the only tax in Canada you got to pay. The only one. Until the laws change, property tax laws are written solidly enough that they'll just take your house. But you don't have to pay income tax. You don't have to pay HST and GST. You don't have to pay liquor tax. These are a lot of taxes you just don't have to pay. You don't have to pay these taxes. And as for not repaying CERB, that's exactly what my client did. He was threatened to pay back CERB. He sued the CRA. He won. He's not paying CERB anymore, and he's getting $10,000. Yes. Fight. Fight. Always fight the fights that need fighting. The CRA, they're sloppy. They got a lot of cracks in their system, and they are completely beatable because cowards always are. That's it for now, everybody. Do not forget to watch the Kevin J. Johnston Show. My political show is every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. And this show here, the tax show, the money show, it's actually called the Real Estate and Money Show, but we do cover a lot to do with taxes, real estate, and investments, is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You can always catch me here on TikTok, but also here on freedomreport.ca. That's it for now. We'll see you tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Take care.